For Paul Oakley, though, heaven is the Welsh seaside town of Cardigan. Paul used to patrol Leicester as a police officer.
Yeah, he said he was absolutely brilliant.
Now he patrols the River Tavy as a moorings master.
You okay now? Are you going out? What's your rod? I'm quite happy to get out there in a force 10 storm in the middle of the river and try and rescue a boat or whatever, you know, and I'd much rather do that than sort of sit at a computer or do written work.
It's Paul's job to ensure that boats are securely moored to the riverbed and are not swept away by the tides and currents.
You can't put a big ship on a small block with a light chain, you know, it's got to be the right sort of tackle and it's got to be in the right place. So the mooring masters deal with that. And basically it's our responsibility to make sure that people can put their boats onto the moorings safely.
To prevent boats running aground, Paul marks the river channel with red and white buoys.
Anybody coming into the river can pick up the first fairway buoy, which is in front of us. You'd think that the river and it's all very deep, but it's very, very shallow over there. That's why we have to stick to the markers. You wouldn't believe it, but I can put a fairway buoy in to the deep water, and then with a fortnight later, that buoy can be on the sand. And the river can have moved over 50 metres. So it's a bit lumpy out there. Boaters down here have to be quite dedicated. It's not like stepping off a pontoon onto your boat and going out to sea. You know, they have to work out the tides and then navigate round and out over the bar, because we've got a pretty serious bar out there that needs an eye on. It's quite tame if you know what you're doing and, you know, you don't try and go over it when it's getting really rough.
But today, the sandbar is rough.
You can see the surf in the distance. Today it's a little bit lumpy, but not impassable.
Then comes word of a small boat that's been flipped over on the bar.
It's on a little dory.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope they're all right.
Yeah.
From what those boaters have just told me, a chap has gone out with his son and they've attempted to go over the bar. One of the things that you don't do is attempt the bar in a particular boat that can't make it. When you get a stern wave coming in, it broaches the boat and turns the boat over onto its side, and then the next wave that comes turns the boat over and it rolls it.
The crew has been rescued by lifeboat. For Paul, this is a very different routine from his days in the East Midlands as a builder, haulier, policeman and prison officer. Then came the chance to buy a boatyard.
I used to come down on holiday or when I was on leave in the police force or whatever, and the river has always sort of pulled me. And then a couple of my friends who owned Cardigan Outboard were sort of moving on, and I ended up taking the place over.
His own boatyard was a dream opportunity. Paul now runs the business when not on patrol, but he'd rather be out on the boat. It can even feel a bit like his old police job. The river has a speed limit.
If you're going down the road in the Midlands and you see a police car parked in the side of the road, you'll slow down. Being there is enough. And so we've got this boat that we go along, we've got the jackets, and there are bylaws, but we don't want to come heavy-handed or anything. It's a very friendly place, and that's the way we need to keep it. We try to cater for everybody, really. Morning. Where I come from, you've got the largest village in the country, which is Ibstock, and Cardigan's not much bigger than Ibstock, and yet it's a town in itself.
Beyond the town bridge, the Tavy changes character.
Now we're becoming a much more a country river, where bird life changes. We get woodpeckers up here, herons stay up here, of course. The salmon are swimming under us as we speak, and you always get a cormorant sitting on that branch. One of the things that you need to know about a tidal river is where the shallows are. And if you notice seabirds sitting above a particular area, then that gives you an indication that the water is shallower there than it is either side.
And as the tide runs out, the estuary changes character too.
2 3/4 hours after high tide. and already the sandbanks are beginning to show in the middle. These boats here will be all aground.
Until the next tide, when the cycle begins all over again.
I wouldn't leave here for the world now. I lived a long time in the Midlands, and the Midlands is a great place, but it isn't in my blood, you know, and I couldn't move back there. As far as I'm concerned, this is my utopia.